and welcome to the 30th episode. Oh my goodness, number 30, 30, the big 30. The 30th episode of Mixed Media Reviews. My name is Kelsey, and today I'm going to be talking about a movie. And this week's movie is the Apple TV movie CODA. This was a suggestion from someone on Reddit that I've finally been able to get to, so thank you for the suggestion. You may be also realizing that this episode has been released on Sunday and not Saturday. That is because I forgot yesterday was in fact Saturday. On Friday, after studying for quite a while after work, I watched CODA and figured I'd record the episode the next day, which was yesterday/Saturday morning. But then I had a haircut that morning, and then my best friend called me and asked to hang out, and all I could think of was, well, at least I can put off studying. AC just kicked on, so sorry about that. But yeah, so I totally forgot that yesterday was Saturday and had other things to do besides studying. And now it's Sunday morning and I'm finally recording. Sorry, dudes. And while I'm here, I'll let you know that I have been thinking. I have 2 ideas for possible schedules. The first one is that I take off all of July, November, and December. The first part of the year would be one season and would start in January and end in June, and the second would be from August to October, so a little bit of a shorter second season. Or the second idea is that I go from February to October and take off the remaining 3 months, which would be November, December, January, but I'm not quite sure if that's a good idea to have 3 months off in a row. Let me know your thoughts if you have any. And I'll figure that out pretty soon, because that might be the end of this month that I might take a break. But anywho, let's get back to the episode. As per usual, I did not know much about the movie CODA before I started it. I think I knew it had something to do with music and that somebody in the movie was deaf, but other than that, I had no idea. It was one of the first things I heard about coming from Apple TV, and was still kind of confused at that point about the whole situation and why Apple was suddenly producing movies and stuff. So I never got around to watching it, but now I have, and I'm glad I did. Straight from Google, the summary reads, Ruby is the only hearing member of a deaf family from Gloucester, Massachusetts. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. At 17, she works mornings before school to help her parents and brother keep their fishing business afloat. But in joining her high school's choir club, Ruby finds herself drawn to both her duet partner and her latent passion for singing. Today's episode will certainly contain some spoilers. I tried to be more general about them, but I think they're still pretty spoilery, so be warned. First off, this movie was so good. I cried a lot. It was just so well done, from the acting to the story to the dialogue. It was just so good. The opening of the movie is a shot of the water. There's no music, just sounds of the ocean. As we near a boat, we can hear faint singing. Once on the boat, we see that it comes from a teenaged girl singing along to the radio. But still the sounds of the boat and the ocean are coming through. I really loved this scene, and especially how it seems just so peaceful. Everything in harmony, from the sounds of the boat to the sounds of the ocean to her voice. And then we contrast that to later in the movie, when Ruby is trying to study and everyone is so loud and every sound is clashing. The setting of the table, her brother's phone, her dad cleaning the grill. Loud sounds that are definitely not in harmony, and how it makes her, kind of feel disjointed from the rest of the family. That opening scene is really good. I love that the dad loves rap music and that he has to have it up really loud so he can feel the bass better, and he doesn't know the lyrics or even realize how his daughter might feel about him pulling up in the school parking lot with rap music super loud so that everyone can hear it. He's just enjoying the bass, and that was really cute. Such a dad thing, too. Her dad was just such a good character. I especially loved his fart joke. He's definitely got dad jokes down, for sure. I think it also, the movie in general, reflects on how poorly we're doing as a society, that Ruby has to go with her parents to such a private doctor's appointment because there isn't someone in the office who knows sign language to communicate with them, or even just some other way for the office to try harder to be able to communicate with their own patients that didn't involve them bringing their own daughter with them. It definitely is a failure on the doctor's office part to not even try to come up with a better solution. And this point is repeatedly touched on throughout the movie. Ruby feels like a tool for her family instead of a part of the family. As the only hearing one, she feels the need to constantly play translator, to be the family's link to the outside world. We see how exhausting it is for her, even before she tells her family. When Ruby and her best friend are upstairs hanging out, her best friend asks her for the sign for something, and you can see it in Ruby's face that she doesn't want to tell her, partly because of what she's asking, which is to be able to tell Ruby's brother that she wants to be with him, but partly because she feels like when she's with her friends or at school, she can kind of take a break from being a tool, from being a translator. And having her best friend ask her to translate just takes away that safe space, the space where she can just be Ruby and not the tool for her family. This is also tied to her singing. I love her voice, and yes, maybe she loves singing because of how it makes her feel. And I'm sure that's part of it, that it's something she's good at and that it's something that she just enjoys. And when her mother, played by the marvelous Marlee Matlin, says to her, "If I was blind, would you like painting?" Of course this hurts Ruby, that her mother thinks that it's, just about her relationship with her family, just about, tied back to her once again, that something about Ruby isn't really hers alone, that it has to be related to her family. But in a way, it kind of makes sense that it is. Yes, she likes singing, and yes, she really is good at it, but it makes sense that maybe part of the reason that she likes it so much, that it makes her feel the way it does, is because of the role she plays as interpreter for her family. She's constantly feeling left out because she's the odd one out in a way. If we go back to the scene where Ruby is studying and making all that, and her family's making all that noise, she puts on headphones to drown out that noise, and her mother tells her to take them off because it's rude, to which Ruby says that it's rude of them to be so loud while she's trying to focus. And her mother just kind of blows her off, not really understanding. Then at dinner, Ruby is annoyed at her brother, Leo, for bringing up his Tinder matches. Ruby asks why that isn't rude, and her mother says it's because music can't be enjoyed by the whole family, but the whole family can see and participate in having opinions about the Tinder matches. So yeah, it makes sense that Ruby would latch onto something so strongly that would be impossible for her family to try to take for themselves or even enjoy on their own in their own way. Outside, of course, her dad listening to rap music. Within her family, Ruby is the different one. Her parents and her brother are all deaf, while she is not. And while she did grow up in that world, she is still separate from it. Not quite a part of it like the rest of her family is. And her mother not understanding her interest in music or singing is a big piece of that. In the world around her, though, in high school, while she'd feel like maybe she could finally fit in and not be the minority like she is in her family, she's still seen as different. She's still the child of deaf parents. She isn't Ruby. And it was really interesting to see that dynamic throughout the entire film of her always kind of being the outsider no matter where she is, of her family not feeling like the outsiders within their own unit. Only when they venture out into the world do they feel like they are different. Whereas Ruby always feels different no matter where she is. The music teacher was great, Mr. V. I loved him so much. He was such a great character. The way he was able to connect with her, to bring out the best in her, was just so great to watch. I loved their interactions. And I love the scene where he tries to get her to sound ugly, to not have such a polished singing voice all the time. And he really gets to the root of her issue, that she was bullied for how she sounded when she first went to school, being the child of deaf parents. And that now she feels like she kind of always has to control her own voice to make sure that she always sounds polished. But when he gets her to kind of see that it's okay to let go, that, everyone has been bullied, it's okay to kind of let go of that negative kind of connotation to it, he gets her to see that sounding ugly can still be beautiful. And I really liked that. I also loved when he asked her what she felt when she sang and pushed her to try to kind of explain it when she said she didn't know how to. And instead of using words, she signed her emotions. He doesn't try to get her to interpret for him, which I love because, again, it's something that Ruby could just be and not another instance where she has to interpret herself. She can just use the signs to showcase her emotions without feeling like she then has to play a different part, be the tool. And he can see the emotion. He doesn't need those spoken words. And it was such a good moment between them. We didn't even get the translation in closed captioning for what she was signing because we didn't need that. We saw the emotion in her face, the way she signed it, and it was perfect. I also loved later in the movie when he tried to sign to the dad, trying to make the effort and just completely got it wrong when he was so confident. And then the dad signed it back, which was great. They're both great characters. I love them both. Also, side note, the teacher's house was perfect for him. The black exterior with that star and the more modern kind of cabin interior, I loved it. It was 100% totally what his character would live in, for sure. And to be fair, it's also totally true for Ruby and her family. Definitely a fisherman's home. It's cozy and practical and eclectic, and I loved the sets, for sure. I had made a comment in the episode where I talked about Hawkeye that I wish they had focused on the hands of those who were signing more often. It was always just a moment before they did close-ups to the face, and it really bothered me. In CODA, they don't do this, which is great. It seems obvious that they wouldn't in a movie such as this, centered on a family with mostly deaf people, and where signing and interpreting is, a big part of the movie. But, you never know. Sometimes people make choices that you don't know why. So I liked that it felt like they made it a point, and they didn't just show the hands, like from a side view or whatever, but they also tried to make sure that we saw the face with the hands. Since the face is such an important part of signing, it's where we get the connotation of the words, much like the inflection on spoken words help you determine the meaning that's layered on top of them. You can know if someone's being sarcastic or if they're angry or whatever with the way that you sound, but with signs, that's harder. You need the face to kind of understand the emotion. And I liked that they focused on both, that we got to see both, so that people could see the emotion on their face, much like you'd be able to hear the emotion reflected in an actor speaking. And I like that CODA kind of proved that you don't have to have those close-up face shots to increase the drama or make things more intense or intimate in the movie. You can be farther away, and those things still came across perfectly. There were also only a couple moments where the sound completely cut out, and I'm glad that they didn't overuse it because it made those moments that much more meaningful. Once was on the boat when Ruby didn't show up and they had that, spy on their boat. The sound cut out when that lady was speaking to the Coast Guard to amplify the confusion of what was happening and to leave us in the dark just as much as the dad and the brother were. The other was at the concert, where she was singing the duet and her family couldn't hear it, but saw the emotion on the faces of those around them. They were bored at first, of course, with nothing to really pay attention to, but during the duet, when the sound cuts out, you can see that their attention shifts from just kind of watching or just kind of talking to each other about dinner, but they started watching the people. Their attention shifted to those around them, and it's then that they realized that their daughter was actually good at singing. They saw the emotion on the people's faces, and it was such a powerful realization. And when we see that on their faces themselves, reflecting the emotion that they see on the other audience members, it was such a good moment, and I really enjoyed it. And I think the lack of sound really drove it home just how much the watching of others helped them kind of see and be a part of the moment, even though they couldn't hear Ruby sing. It was so good, guys. I think it also makes a lot of sense in this movie that the mother was so afraid of her daughter leaving for college to kind of pursue a degree in music instead of just helping out with something that they know that she's good at, which is, being their interpreter or helping out on the fishing boat. It must be really scary as a parent to have a child do something that you can't even be able to understand. Parents that have genius kids that do things that they have literally no understanding of, and to be able to put that faith in them that they'll succeed or even fail without any kind of a basis for your own knowledge of how good they are at that task or at that skill. Her parents have no idea how good or bad she is at singing prior to the concert, even though she sung constantly around them. But they don't know that. They don't know how she sounds. And her mother has such a hard time being able to let go of her own maybe holdups or her own fears of failure, that she can't let her own daughter go out into the world to experience it herself. And I'm sure it's the same fear that a lot of parents have about kids pursuing less, perhaps, tangible things like the arts. But in their case, it must be that much scarier, being unable to even hear for themselves how their daughter sounds, to have absolutely no basis to judge for themselves. The scene with her dad after the concert, oh boy. That was such a good scene. The song that she was given to sing at the concert was, of course, the perfect song for her and for this moment in the movie, about sacrificing for those that you love. And I love that her dad wanted her to sing it to him while he put his hands on her neck to feel the vibrations. He got the emotion she put into it through that and through her face. And it was just such a touching moment that they shared. I'm already getting all choked up just thinking about it. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is what happens at the end of the movie. So feel free to jump to the next part if you haven't seen the movie and you want this to be a surprise. So I was really hoping that at the concert, when she saw how bored her parents were and probably could see the conversation that they were having about dinner between them, I was really hoping that when she saw that she'd do it then, but she didn't, and I was a little bit bummed. But then the audition happened, and oh my goodness, I loved that audition scene. I love that the teacher came to play piano for her, and I love that he messed up on purpose so she could restart. And then I loved that the family comes in, completely ignoring that they weren't allowed to come. And the moment that she began signing the song for them, I just crumpled. I had been waiting for this moment, for her to be able to share the emotion and the lyrics and the song with them without them being able to hear her sing. I was waiting for this moment to come, and I am so glad that this is when it happens. I loved that the interviewers realized that she was signing to people and they didn't stop her. They knew that they were there and they were okay with it. And the song choice for that moment as well was just chef's kiss. It was just the perfect moment of her being able to share with her family, you know, what it feels like for her, like her experience. Oh, I loved it. It was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. It also reminded me that in like late high school / early college, I used to actually watch a lot of videos of people signings to songs. And they were always so interesting to watch because when you hear someone sing, they can put all that emotion into what they're singing. But when you're signing, it's so much more than just, a literal translation of what the words are. You also put the emotion into it with your face, or you use the signs to kind of mimic the beat in a way. And it's really fascinating to watch. And they make, I don't know, like you get like I feel like you get a more deeper connection. You get a deeper connection to a song that way than just, kind of hearing someone sing sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, it was a great scene. Loved it. This was such a good movie, and I'm very upset with myself that I took so long to watch it. So does that mean that I don't have any critiques? Yes, that's exactly what it means. The only thing I would have really put here was that I wished that she signed at the concert, and spoiler alert again, but then she signed at the audition, and that was a better choice for sure for her to sign in that moment instead. If I'm really thinking hard, maybe I wish we saw more development from her best friend Gertie, like her learning a little bit more sign language since she's dating or seeing or whatever they're doing the brother Leo. I mean, we did see Ruby teach Miles how to sign his own name, so that was something, but we never really saw that with the best friend. We see that she did kind of sign something a little bit at the concert, but that was kind of it. I liked that at the end of the movie in general, which is a spoiler for this part, at the end of the movie where the rest of the fishing community finally kind of stepped up to learn a bit more and be able to communicate with them. I thought that was really great to see them improving and trying to be better. And that the family themselves began to embrace the community and be a bit more involved with, the dad going to the bar with Leo, and kind of embracing the community. And that was really nice. But Gertie, I don't know. She never really seemed to do that either. And maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. But I was kind of hoping that we saw her sign something to Leo as they left at the end. But nothing. So I guess that's my big critique for this is that I wish there's more development from Gertie. The title is, oh my god, such a good title. A play on both the acronym for Child of Deaf Adults, and it's also a musical term, and I love that there's that overlap, but maybe I wish we could have heard him teaching her what CODA was instead of the other terms, or like in addition to those other terms that we see them learning about. Maybe that would have been too on the nose. Probably. They did mention what CODA stood for in the movie, I think. So maybe we could have gotten the musical one too. I don't know. I'm just making things up at this point to have a more robust critique space. And if we're just throwing some stuff out there, I would like to add the Apple product placement. I mean, I get it. It's on Apple TV, so it makes sense they're using Apple phones and Apple products. And at least she had wired headphones and not like AirPods, since, she had to buy a $2 record player at Goodwill, so why would she have AirPods? But every single phone case that they had were those ones that had like the circle cut out for the Apple logo. Like, we know what iPhones look like. Just put a regular cover on those bad boys, I guess. And yeah, those are my critiques. I think it's fairly obvious that I recommend this movie to literally everybody in the entire world. It was such a good movie. Thank you again for that Redditor who suggested the movie to me. And I'm sorry it took so long to get to it, as I had other movies planned that I wanted to get to before I did this one. Between this and Ted Lasso, I think, and I hate to say it, but I think we can't count out something just because it's on Apple TV. Because both of those are phenomenal. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso, definitely watch Ted Lasso. Because, oh my god, so good. Oh, and I've been studying a lot, so that Teen Wolf bonus episode probably won't see the internet until later in June. Today is June 12th. My exam is June 16th, which is this Thursday. So probably the last weekend of June, maybe, or the week after it. Those days might be better, but we'll see. We shall see. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the Apple TV movie CODA. Thank you so much for joining me. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Mixed Media Reviews Podcast, and you can also find me anywhere you find your podcasts, probably. Please join me next week where I will be reviewing a book, which will probably be A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye!